What's up, guys? Yale Greenfield, aka the Live King. I'm back here in Los Angeles, my favorite city to play poker, and I'm at Hollywood Park Casino today. They do have a $500 to $2,500 no limit. That's $510. Often plays with a $20 straddle. Just got back into town, so hoping HP's got a little bit of action. It is a Friday, so Fridays do tend to bring pretty good action. Looking forward to just getting back around the LA people. The LA people have so much flavor, personality. You just get a good mix of people, good mix of cultures. Sometimes it pops off. Hoping today it pops off, whether it's from an entertainment perspective or a making money perspective. I'm gonna get in there now and play a little poker. If you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. It'd be greatly appreciated, really helps out the channel. And I'll let you guys know what I'm seeing, feeling, thinking, and give you a little recap at the end. I'm really excited to be back at Hollywood Park Casino, aka the Mecca. And in this first hand, I peel pocket rockets numero uno in the hijack. Under the gun, one raises to 40 and the low jack calls. So naturally, I'm going to kick it up here, just deciding what size to go with. And I select $175. Small blind decides to cold call, and at this point, he had been a little bit of action, but nothing has stood out about him. Under the gun, one does call. She's a professional. And the low jack calls as well. So this first pot is a tricky one because it's a 4-way 3-bet pot. Flop comes Jack 10 deuce rainbow. I think this could hit the small blind's range pretty hard. He's currently on his phone. And now that he's off it, he decides to check. So does under the gun one. And so does the low jack. So now it's time to clean up the equity here a little bit.
275. 275.
And after I bet $275, the small blind practically beats me into the pot with his call. I'm sure that's some kind of timing tell, but I can't tell you what it means with this guy in particular. Under the gun, one calls as well, and the low jack folds. So we went from 4 people to the flop to 3 to the turn. And when the Knight of Diamonds drops, I'm thinking this is not the best card in the deck. Both small blind and under the gun one probably have every combination of king queen, which is a pretty natural peel on the flop. Small blind checks. Under the gun one checks, and I think this is close between check and bet. I wasn't really too sure what to do here, honestly. I think this is one of the worst cards in the deck. So I go ahead and check back. The river's a 10, and when this card drops, I'm thinking that the small blind and under the gun one would probably lead a 10 if they had one, and they would probably also lead king queen if they had that hand. So the small blind checks, and so does under the gun one, and now it's back on us. I think we've got a value bet situation on our hands, and it's just a question of what hands can call that check to us on all 3 streets, and what size we should choose here. So I opt for a milk bet of $500. Small blind beats us into the pot with a 1-chip call, and under the gun one folds. And when we show, he mucks. So maybe we could have bet a little bit more when you look at the pace of his call on the river. Maybe that was a timing tell of some kind. But I do think that the turn was an extremely tricky spot, and the entire hand was as well. So I'm happy to have gotten off to a good start here at Hollywood Park Casino. This next hand's going to be a little bit of a curveball if you've watched my vlogs before. I peel 2 6s in the cutoff. And the hijack raises to 35. The hijack is a recreational player, but he's thinking, and he's relatively active, but not out of control. So I go with a 3-bet of $120. My reasoning here is I don't really want to play a cold call. I would just rather play this as a 3-bet or fold. And the hijack calls. So we've got ourselves in a spot we don't get into very frequently, so now it's time to practice. The flop is 7 deuce deuce rainbow, and the hijack checks. So when I'm considering the options, I'm leaning towards bet here, because I think this is a pretty good flop, all things considered. So I bet $125. And the hijack calls, which is something I expect a lot of the time. He's pretty sticky on flops. The turn's a 3 of spades, and you'll see that we do not have a spade in our hand, and the hijack checks to us again. So I'm considering my options once again here. This is a spot I'm not very familiar with, so it's easy to get confused to decide how to proceed. And in my state of confusion, I decide to bet $400. And in hindsight, I don't really like this size. I think it's just way too big. I think half pot or 3/4 would be fine. And the hijack calls. So now maybe I'm in a little bit of trouble and I won't be firing again unless I get a really good bluff card. And the river's a 4 of spades. He checks, and I think this is just a bad card for us. He's gonna have lots of overpairs and 2 spade combos. So I check back, and he shows ace-9 of spades. So he peeled us pretty light on the flop, and then it goes perfect to a flush. Looking to recover from that pocket 6's hand, we get just the perfect medicine pocket aces once again, so we're running good today, and we make it 35 to go from middle position. Low jack calls, he's a very tight player. And the button moves all in for $450. So now it's back on us, and I'm pretty deep with the tight player to my left. So while I think calling is an option here,
9 total.
I favor a raise and make it 900 total to go. Low jack quickly folds.
I have your hand.
You in my hand?
Yeah.
Hi, Bounce.
I tell her I've got the hand that she's been all in with previously.
Because I just won all that baccarat money now. I don't care.
She's in game hot from baccarat. Good for her.
Nice.
Board runs clean for us, and she showed that she had ace-queen of diamonds. So pocket aces 2 times in the first 3 hands to start this day. And that's what you call run good. I'm just a touch late to begin recording here, but we've got a middle position limp and a low jack raised to 80. We got 2 kings in the hijack. We make it $280. And you'll notice I'm in a new seat because some players have joined from the must move game, and I've decided to move my seat here across the table. Middle position cold calls, and he's the same guy who cold called in the very first hand of the day when we had aces. Low jack calls as well, so it's a 3-way 3-bet pot here. Flop is relatively safe. It's 8-7-3 rainbow. Middle position checks. And the low jack does something I don't see a lot. She leads 300. Normally, in these types of sequences, people check to the pre-flop raiser, but that's not what's happened here, so I'm trying to digest the information. Middle position and I are relatively deep with each other, and the low jack only has $405 behind her 300. So I'm trying to decide between calling and raising, and I decide to raise. I make it $800. In hindsight, I don't like this size. I think calling or maybe even min raising would be better than raising to 800. It's kind of like a no man's land raise. I don't think it accomplishes much. Middle position folds. Low jack quickly calls.
Take exactly the same night. There you go.
She reveals 2 jacks, turns open-ended, and rivers a set. So she turned a lot of outs actually, and then gets there on the river. And she's actually a really nice person, so sometimes you feel less bad about losing a hand when you lose it to somebody who's really nice. So we're reeling a little bit from that pocket king's hand when we pick up ace-queen of diamonds in the small blind. Hijack, an extremely tight player, opens to 60. And while I feel a little bit sick about it, I've got to 3-bet it. I make it 260. Normally you wouldn't feel sick about ace-queen of diamonds, but this guy is quite tight, and he does put in the call from hijack. Flop is 10-8-5 with 1 diamond. I go for a very small size of 185, hoping he folds, but trying to keep him as wide as possible if he does choose to call. And call he does. Turn is a jack of hearts, so we now have an up and down straight draw. Any king or any 9 makes us straight, but the heart could be dead. I want to keep pressuring this tight guy. So I bet 500. And I'm thinking here, if he does call, I'm going to keep the heat on and probably go for a triple on most non-heart rivers. After a good bit of deliberation, he does fold. Note to the rail. If you're going to call my 3-bet from the small blind and not take a shot on a damp flop and a turn that gets Niagara Falls wet, you might want to consider folding pre-flop. Just saying. In this next one, we've got 2 black 9s and low jack, and make it 60 to go. The button is a loose, aggressive thinking recreational player, and he makes it 205. This is the kind of hand I'd like to put squarely in my defend bucket, so I call. And flop's 5-3-2 all spades, so it's a pretty good flop for us. I check. And he bets $250. He's a little too loose and a little too aggressive for me to want to go anywhere yet, so I put in the call. Turn is a jack of clubs, and I once again check. This guy plays really fast and he checks back. River's a 7, and I think years back I would have often checked in this spot again, hoping to induce a bluff, but I've added some new tricks to my arsenal. I think there's some hands we actually beat that we can get value from. So I'll go for a block bet, a very small bet of $275.
Such a good price. Why are you giving me such a good price?
He's tempted by the price, so he looks us up. And he cannot beat 2 9s on this board. So a little bit of sneaky thin value, and I'm really happy with how I played this hand. I think it's a spot I've improved on over the years. I've got queen 10 of clubs in middle position, and raise it to 60. Same opponent as last hand, calls from the cutoff. And remember, he is a thinking, tricky, aggressive recreational. So we go heads up here. All things considered, we get a good flop 8-6-2 2 clubs, so we've got a 4 flush and 2 overs, but I've got some competing thoughts in my head, and I get a little bit confused here. I actually think betting the majority of the time would be best, but I do check. Now our opponent bets $75, and I think when I do choose to check, with this exact combo and a couple others, I should really be considering check raising here, but I don't, I just call. So fuck up number 1. Turn is a 5 of diamonds, and I check again. He quickly bets 100, and now I feel like he kind of owns this board. He's used the small sizing here. I don't really know what to do, but the price is quite good, so I feel like it's hard to make a big error by calling, so that's what I choose. River's a deuce, so no help to us, and suddenly with the line we've stationed down with queen high. So when it goes check check and we reveal our queen high, naturally it's no good, as he flatted us pre with 9-6 of spades, flop middle pair, and owned us throughout the hand. So pretty big mess up on my part, do not like how I played this one. Last hand of the night here, and it's a doozy. Pocket kings on the button. So we've had pocket aces 2 times, and now pocket kings 2 times. That's when you know you're running hot pre-flop in a session. However, we're barely winning anything to this point. We open to $60. The small blind professional makes it 300. This has the makings of a button versus small blind war. And when I say that, I mean that she knows that I'm gonna open the button relatively wide, and I know therefore she's got to play back at me relatively wide. So it's a I know that she knows that I know spot, but of course we've got pocket kings here.
800.
So I 4-bet for value and make it 800 to go. And she 5-bets. I watch the dealer and she tells me it's 1,800 to go. So I gotta count exactly how much I have. And I 6-bet shove for 2,950 effective, and she snap calls us.
Go toss.
So we're gonna go 2 times here, and you feel a little bit sick, like maybe she could have aces, but it's button versus small blind, and it just is what it is. First board comes with a jack. Second board looks safe, but the river's a queen. And she mucks, so she didn't have pocket queens here. She probably had something like ace king suited, and we win an awesome 6K pot with pocket kings. And this is gonna be the majority of the profit that I make for the day. All right, everybody. Good to be back in LA. Had a little fun at Hollywood Park tonight. Ran good, got dealt a lot of really big hands pre-flop. Multiple big pocket pairs. I did say in the beginning that you never know what's gonna happen in LA or how it's gonna pop or if there's gonna be some shenanigans. I did make a $100 prop bet with a guy. It was a very minor prop bet. It was about who got moved over to the must-move game first because there's like seat priority change. And I was trying to move seats and he jumped me. So he basically said to me like, no, I was in the game before you, so I get the seat. And I said, I don't think so, I think I was first. The guy's kind of like a known dude, so like I really wasn't trying to get into it with him. He's good for the game, he's action, everybody knows who he is. And then he said to me, well, I'll bet you $100. And I said, all right, fine, you know, that's cool. We can do it. We go to bet 100, and then everyone at the table starts telling him he's wrong. And he looks at me and he says, no bet, no bet, no bet. No, I don't bet. So apparently he didn't want to bet after he made the bet. It turned out he would have lost the $100 and he refused to pay me. And this is just
par for the course. You know, people want to prop you, and then when they realize they're about to lose, say they don't want to prop you. But no big deal. So I lost out on a $100 prop bet where I was apparently getting free rolled, but I did well in the game tonight. Final numbers, in for 2,700, out for 6,126. That's a profit of 34.26. Most of the profit did come in that one single hand where I 6-bet jammed kings, button versus small blind. I'm sure she had something good. Don't know what. Probably cooled her off there and held both boards, and that was nice. And hope you're all out there running good in your games. If you see me out and about, come say hi. I'll be in LA, and then after LA, I'll be in the World Series of Poker. See you guys again soon. Live King out.